Pregame.com.
Pregame.tv, Bryan Leonard, Steve Fezzik, VR will be on with some bonus picks with Ken Thompson. But for now, we are breaking down. I want to talk football, Oklahoma State, Mississippi State. But Bryan, you have a World Scrabble Championship story.
They just had the World Scrabble Championships here in Las Vegas, and
could I bet on it?
I don't believe you could. Not here in town. You might have been able to bet off.
A guy puts the cue up and it's like, yes, I was laying 5.5, and he got it done. Go ahead.
But I just made a joke with my wife because they had a picture in the paper and they had two different boards at the same time, two different couples playing. I'm looking at the boards. Every word was at least 5 letters, 5 to 7 letters. You should see my wife and I. We played it on our iPhones. It, us, bat. I mean.
Donkey.
Donkey would be our biggest
idiot.
Yeah, our most
dummy.
Pretty much. Yeah. And then I turned to my wife and go, "Did you actually see that 5 and 7 letter word?" She goes, "My grandmother used to put 5 and 7 letter words out."
I remember when I played with my sister, I would put ox, and then she would put box and start laughing.
And then you go ES at the end.
Yeah,
boxes.
My brother would go boxes. So very good. College football, I know you have bet more games than almost anyone at the Golden Nugget against the openers games of the year. But now we can talk week 1. And the nice thing about week 1 is now, instead of being constrained by like our $1,000 limits, now our limits are up to $3,000. I'm sure they'll go up to $5,000 soon. This is against Cantor Gaming, so you can start throwing bombs, if you consider those to be bombs, but you can start getting down more on big bets. Have you done anything with the week 1 lines that came out?
I have not done anything as of yet. I haven't seen anything that far off, at least my numbers that I wanted to do it. It has to be off my number and has to be over a key number. This is how if I'm going to invest something that far in advance.
Yeah, as far as my criteria, like I always say, when I bet a game of the year, I got to bet a number that's never going to come back. I am going to get a number and it can't just be I'm getting plus 14 on a game that's 13.5 to 13.
Right.
I need to get it through a key number. I want to get plus 3.5 a game that's 2.5, or at the very least, I want to get a game plus 3 that I know I would have bet plus 2.5. It can't just be, I got an extra half point on a key number. I have to like the game also in order to invest in it, because let's face it, there's so many stuff to bet with season wins, with everything coming out. By the way, the Hilton they splashed out all their college games of the year. They put out their season win numbers, and one thing, and I'm sure you're aware of this, is that a lot of places in town, they always round their college football season win numbers up a little bit. They make the Notre Dame's 9.5, whereas the LVH is very sharp. They know usually the value's on the under. They make the Notre Dame 8.5, and so I hate it when the LVH comes out first, because they deal this really, really low number and everyone copies. It's a copycat industry, and then you don't get any value. I much prefer. I'm not one to like throw anyone under the bus or talk negatively about anyone, but like I love when Harrah's comes out with some of their odds makers. Do they have odds makers? I guess so. But that would be my dream world, is Harrah's sets the market and everyone would copy Harrah's.
Your dream world is Harrah's sets the market and you're the only one in the sportsbook when they put them out.
And that is a problem. There's actually a theory at some numbers that go up on certain books like that people are like, it's got to be an inside job. It's just got to be. The number is so crazy bad. It's
funny you mentioned that, because I went down, as you mentioned, the Hilton just came out with the games of the year. And I went down. And there's one guy, I'll tell you when we're done who it is, but there's one guy that I know does the same thing as we do. Every time we're at a place, he's at a place. And I'm sitting there with Jonathan, a guy from the Tuesday group, and I go, just find out, whenever that guy gets up there to bet, it's time to bet. So he goes up to the window, and Jonathan runs up and says, "You got the numbers?" And the woman starts, and then the sportsbook manager behind says, "They'll be out when they're out." And then he stood there, and he was first in line. They let him bet everything he wanted, and then they put the sheets out.
Well, that guy tips more than once every month, Bryan Leonard.
If I win once.
By the way, I talked to the Golden Nugget said they're going to let you keep playing, but they're going to keep a close eye on you. You've done so well. Talked to Johnny over at the Win, and you're going to send a limo
for me.
to the Leonard household. And
I live in town. I don't need a limo. Just give me a room.
Yeah, they'll believe me. They will take care of you.
Good.
Based upon I've got documented results.
If you're beating the spread by 1.5 points on every game, chances are you're supposed to win.
Yeah, you're beating it by 3 points. You know what? And you know what? losers everywhere. Disgusting.
Didn't we have a football game to talk about?
Let's do it. Oklahoma State. There's an Allen Boston theory out there that I largely agree with, that whenever you get a team that's been a doormat historically and then they rise up and they get good for a while, what goes up must come down. And so you'll see that. You'll get a West Virginia will be in the title hunt, a South Florida, a Kansas State. A couple years later, garbage. They'll fall back down. Remember Kansas, that one year with Kansas State? I think Kansas was 10-2. Shortly thereafter, garbage again. But I think, so someone might say, well, Okie State's been a top 10 team, but this isn't going to be a team that's going to be able to continue this success. And remember, they got upset by Iowa State, or they're heading to the title game 2 years ago, 26-1 favorite. Someone lost a bridge jumper on that one, on that icy night in Ames, Iowa. But I think that Boone Pickens, all that money they put in the program, all the facilities they have, I follow the money. And there's reasons for me to believe that Oklahoma State is going to be right there at the top of the league for years and years to come. So on the line's 12, open 11. I laid the 11. And on the surface of it, it looks like, well, I got an SEC team coming in. But I'm like, it's Mississippi State, and that's a team that's had some success under Dan Mullen, but I still say they're always going to be a Vanderbilt, slightly below average SEC team that's never going to be a contender, and I got them against a team that arguably could be a national title contender, and what I really like is that you set the power rating numbers. I came up with like 15 on this game, but I know Oklahoma State's such an over team. The final score here isn't going to be 28-15. The final score is more likely going to be a 41-20. This thing's going to get into the 60s, and so you just prorate the numbers upwards, and so you wind up getting a higher differential. I really like the favorite here. I liked your last comment. A lot of people, when they look at power ratings, keep in mind, if a game is going to be a low-scoring game or a high-scoring game, you have to adjust your power rating. So, for example, if a game, as you mentioned, 15, it's going to be a high-scoring game, maybe it should be 17. If it's a low-scoring game, maybe it should be 13. A lot of people don't pay attention to that. But I did want to point out, I made this line 12.5, so I think it's about where it should be. But you've got an SEC defense. And I know that Mississippi State, the offense hasn't been that great. But I went back. Oklahoma State hasn't faced an SEC defense or SEC team at all since the bowl game in 2009. They played Mississippi. In that game, they were held to 21 points below their season average. That same year, they also played Georgia. So in those two games, they averaged 15.5 points. They averaged 15.5 points against Georgia and Mississippi. On a season, everybody else they played, they averaged 30.6 points. So they're being held 15 points below their normal because of that SEC defense. But that's a concern. Right, it is a concern, absolutely. But they've had no problem, absolutely, when they play a middle-tier school from either like the Big Ten or another one of the big conferences, taking them out behind the old woodshed. And like good examples in the bowl game against Purdue, where there's money on the dog. Anytime you can take almost 20 points on any. I think I had Purdue on any team, and then during the national anthem, it's 21-0 Okie State, and then what's this? Oh, they just scored. They just tacked on another touchdown during the halftime show. So I look at them as a bully, and maybe I might be wrong in this, but I really have Mississippi State as being a tier enough, 2 tiers enough below a Georgia, certainly, but even below. They're a below 500 team. Yes, and I think that but I like what you said as far as you get a team like an LSU, all right, and they tend to play lower scoring games, and a team like Mississippi State can hang around and lose 17-6 because it's just so darn low. They get dominated, and that's why like a team like Oklahoma State, power rating wise, is actually, I know this is ridiculous for me to say, but in some ways they're better than Alabama if they played Idaho or someone, because they'll win 88-10. A nice comparison is Oregon. Yes. You could see Oregon win 70-16, or maybe not 16. That'd be kind of hard to come up with. But a complete blowout there because their variance is so big, because the offense is just so good. They're so quick. They're so deep. The way they played, and Oklahoma, and honestly, I think Oklahoma State offensively is right in that same range. Is right similar to Oregon, whereas they'll beat some crappy team by 50 that Bama would only win by 37, even though Alabama is a much better team than everybody else. Let me go ahead and make this one official if I can. All right, I'm not playing open-faced Chinese poker right now, but I do have an ace up my sleeve here. This game is in Houston, and I like the hidden home field edge here. in the Big 12 country. You don't think that they're like watching all this SEC crap and it getting shoved down their throat that the SEC is so much better than their conference. I expect we're going to see 3-1 more orange jerseys in this stadium than we're going to go ahead and see support for Mississippi State. Who really wants to travel to watch your team get pounded? And because of that, I think that we're actually, Bryan, you said you made the game 12.5. Did you have a home field edge that you put into that number?
2, maybe.
You sure?
At the most.
Yeah, because I think we could definitely see an extra 2 points with the line, and that's really what I'm counting on here. Look for a high-scoring game. Oklahoma State minus 12.5 at your local Cantor Sportsbook. They're beautiful books. Go on there with your chin tucked low, your head up high. As C. Williams likes to say, lay it and play it. Oklahoma State. Good. We're ready to talk NFL?
I guess we're talking NFL.
All right, stay with us. Pregame.tv. We're going to be breaking down an NFL game of the year. We're going to be talking about everyone's favorite coach, Bill Belichick, the New England Patriots. How are they going to fare against the Carolina Panthers? Stay with us. Pregame.tv.